Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Certainly pleased to have everybody here tonight. It is Tuesday, August 20th, and we'll start our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Aguilar.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Entenmann. Erpenbach.
Here.
Jamison.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
As we do in the City of Sioux Falls, every time we have a City Council meeting, we start our meeting with a prayer, an invocation. Tonight we've got Reed DeVries here from the Adult Ministry Team Leader for Celebrate Church, one of the largest churches, if not the largest church in the City of Sioux Falls. Welcome back. It's nice to have you here. What we'd ask you to do is to stand for Pastor Reed's invocation, and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Our Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for so many things tonight, and so many things that we often take for granted. A new day, a sunrise, the gift of relationships, the gift of freedom in this country. And Lord God, your word teaches us that we are to respect all authority, and all authority has been given by you to these people. And so, Lord, I pray for the council tonight and for all people in elected offices, that you would give them great wisdom as they discuss different matters, give them great discernment, understanding the right things to do, and Lord God, always just walk with them in all areas of their life. So I thank you for all the things that you give us in this great city, and continue to let us to be a light for other cities around this area and around the country. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Scott here.
Good to have you here. It's good to have you here.
Well, we've got a great crowd here tonight, and we do want to recognize a couple of groups that are here. One is, I just had an opportunity to engage these young men, and I would ask them to stand. We've got Boy Scout Troop 216 from Sioux Falls here. Men, as well as your leaders, if you would stand, we'd like to recognize you. Welcome. As well as we've got another Boy Scout troop here from T, South Dakota, and that's Boy Scout Troop 99. Would they please stand as well? That's one busy Boy Scout right there. It's good to have you here. Welcome. We'll now move on to our consent agenda. Council, any changes to our agenda tonight?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Jamison.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our consent agenda. It was seconded by Councilor Jamison. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. We'll now move on to our regular agenda. Council, any changes or motions?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second.
Rolfing.
Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve our regular agenda. It was seconded by Councilor Rolfing. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Council members Staggers.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erpenbach. Yes. Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Again, great crowd tonight. Thanks for being here. You do have an opportunity to actually engage the City Council at this time. It could be on any topic. All we'd ask is that you come forward, limit your discussion to 5 minutes or less, and then just introduce yourself to the people of our town. If there is an agenda item later on that you want to talk about, we'd ask you to wait until that time. Folks, anybody want to engage the public? Come on forward. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Councilors, I guess it is. I'm always used to commissioners. I'm Robert Colby. This has to do with a somewhat short course in communications, past, present, and future. Most of us, because we're here and what I'm doing is, we're involved with verbal communications, and we break it down because there were certain types of communications. There were the pleasure type of communications, like, that rabbit that fell into the fire tastes pretty good. warning communications like, that bear is going to have you for lunch. Commerce, okay, you get a cow, but I get 4 sheep. We have government, which says, I am the king, do as I say, or else. We have religion, try to be good. Now and after you die, it will get better. We finally got around to written communications, and there were the commercial type, which were many times, like the earliest were like cuneiform type, which were in clay tablets, and they were marks in the clay, and then they were baked. Like Bill gets 1 cow and Herb gets 4 sheep. But of course, this led to one other type of communication, which became court cases. We had the combo, warning and government. I am your king. Those who disobey me get to taste my sword. We went on to pleasure communications, such as, here is how to make beer. Then we got into religious communications, such as, stay away from beer. And finally, we got into the bragging, which was used by a lot of the people in power. I won this war. Each technology that we have used has gotten less permanent and more fragile than the previous one. When you carve things in stone, well, you can see they were around for an awful long time. Some of the earliest stone carvings that we have opportunity to see are over here at Jeffers, Minnesota, in the petroglyphs that were put in. It'd be somewhere between 10,000 and 3,000 years ago. We've got clay tablets, and of course Iraq is kind of making a mess of those things. We've got the papyrus, which was the paper, and then finally we got down to the Chinese rice paper. All allowed for each person to interpret what was written, but then of course they had to be educated. Paper allowed for easy transportation of information, because carrying stones got to be a little too heavy. Gutenberg came along, and he allowed us to have even better communication, because that allowed for multiple copies of information to be quickly and easily manufactured. The shortcomings, there are things like paper, papyrus, it gets wet, bugs will eat it, but it is a compressed information. But that compressed information was still subject to fire, flood, or other disaster. We got around to sound recording for communication, such as this will be recorded and will be played back at other times during the course of the week. From the sound recording, we went into wire recordings. We got into 8mm film that combined the sound and photo or picture. We had electronic tapes, we had videotapes, we've had 8-track tapes, we've had VHS and Beta. And you know, Beta was the best of the 2 systems, but we sometimes can't predict which one will win. Maybe some of you may or may not realize that the reason that we had VHS was because a certain industry called pornography got into VHS, and they made the market so expansive that nobody else could challenge them. We've gotten into CDs and DVDs. Now with digital recording, this is something that's the last that we have at the moment, but each of these has been more fragile than the previous one. And the shortcomings are for each of them. We need a machine to retrieve the information in order for us to be able to use it. The mantra for today is called go paperless. Digital has assets. It's easily transmitted. I can give you a copy of something, or I can send it through the ether, and you get the information. It gives us quick access to information. It causes us to have the ability to discover related information quickly and easily. It takes up less space. But the shortcoming is that fragile, and every time a new platform is used, the old digital information has to be brought up to the next level. You have 1.0, and a new something else comes along, you have to move up to 1.1. But you have to take all the old 1.0 and move it up to 1.1. Then when you have to move it from 1.1 to 1.2. And it has to be upgraded each time. Now, the state of South Dakota, while my wife was the state librarian.
Mr. Colby, I apologize. You're at your 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wanted to engage the council tonight?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if it's okay, can we have maybe Bob just kind of wrap it up?
Mr. Colby, would you mind wrapping it up, please?
I can give you the synopsis is, if you're going to do archiving of information for the past, the present, or the future, you must do several things. Number one, you better archive the material that can read the information. Otherwise, you're going to be a blind person in a library full of books and you won't know what's there. Digital is good, but make a hard copy, because I can read this book, which I had a privilege of making. Here is the digital information that was put together from which it was printed in 2006. I don't know of any place where I can get this read. You can read this, but you won't know what all the information that is here, but you can't interpret this. And everybody who can see can read this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to engage the council tonight? Very good. Item number 15, please.
All right. Item 15 is a new 2013 retail liquor license, including Sunday sales and video lottery terminals for Sports Zone, Inc., the district, 4521 West Empire Place, with a conditional use permit 2012-1012, being approved on November 7, 2012. This would be pending final inspections per Health and Building Services. Item 16 is a new 2013 retail wine license for Plum's Cooking Company, Plum's Cooking, 401 East 8th Street, Suite 107, with a special use permit 2013-0608, being approved on July 3, 2013. 17 is a new 2013 packaged liquor license for I-90 Fuel Services, Inc., the gas stop number 115, to be operated at 6509 South Louise Avenue. 18, transfer of a 2013 retail liquor license, including Sunday sales, from Empire Restaurants, Inc., the Encore at Empire Place, 4200 to 4300 West Empire Place, to River Greenway Hospitality, LLC, Hilton Garden Inn, downtown, 201 East 8th Street, effective October 15, 2013, full-service restaurant, CUP not required, pending final inspections per Building Services. Item 19, transfer of a 2013 retail wine license from Main & Main, LLC, Spring Hill Suites, 4304 West Empire Place, to Main & Main, LLC, Courtyard by Marriott, 4300 West Empire Place, effective October 15, 2013, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. Item 20, transfer of a 2013-14 retail malt beverage license from Main & Main, LLC, Spring Hill Suites, 4304 West Empire Place, to Main & Main, LLC, Courtyard by Marriott, 4300 West Empire Place, effective October 15, 2013, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. 21 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Catering America, Inc., Chef Dominique's, to be operated at Poet, 4615 North Lewis Avenue, for an employee mixer on August 21st, 2013. Item 22, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Killian Community College, to be operated at 300 East 6th Street for a chamber mixer on September 10, 2013. Item 23, special one-day malt beverage license for the Home Builders Association of the Sioux Empire, to be operated at 6904 South Lindcrest Place for a member meeting on September 19, 2013. And item 24, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Avera McKinnon Foundation, to be operated at Perspective, 196 East 6th Street for the Paint the Night Pink fundraiser event on October 18, 2013.
Jamie, good evening.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 15 is a property that's located on the Sears side of the mall property. It's a new business. The applicant also holds a license at Rookies. Item 16 is a kitchenware store that also would like to sell wine by the glass as well as by the bottle. Item 17 is a new C-store or convenience store, and they have 8 other locations with the same type of license. Item 18, 19, and 20 are all tied in together, that it's just some transferring of some licenses for their hotel properties. The retail liquor license is going to go to the downtown hotel and must be moved in order for the retail wine and retail malt beverage to be moved to the hotel that the retail liquor license is being moved from. Item 21 and 20, or items 21 through 24 are all special requests for various events throughout the city.
Thank you, Jamie.
And their applicants are here if you have any questions for them as well.
Council, any questions or comments or motions? Councilor Karski?
Question, maybe not directly related to any one of these, but it seems like we've been seeing a lot of activity, Jamie, with liquor licenses. And at one time we had a fairly, 7 of them in our inventory? Have we been going through these, or what's going on?
Yep. When I took over this position a year and a half ago, there were technically 9 licenses available. However, 2 had been accepted previous to the ordinance change, which makes them have a timeline of when they have to use it. So there's 2 out there that are there and haven't been used yet. The other 7, I have recently started working through the list in July, and I'm to the last applicant, and I have 1 license left. So all of the others have been accepted, and you'll see them coming forward at different varying deadlines, because it just kind of depends on what they have, if they need a conditional use permit, or so it'll be varying, but you will see a lot more coming forward.
So you've been through 6 of them in the last 2 months, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
And what are they, 180?
192,360.
And that money goes into the general fund?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions or comments or motions?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 25.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapters 91 and 150 of the Code of Ordinances of the city to modify automatic fire extinguishing provisions for multifamily residences, to revise the membership qualifications for certain boards in Chapters 55 and 121, and to insert the responsible position for administration of certain licenses in Chapter 110.
Good evening, Ron Bell with Building Services. You're looking at 5 ordinances that are basically a cleanup in our Building Services ordinance section. The first 2 deals with amendments to the International Building Code, International Fire Code. I'd like to recognize Dean Lanier is here with the Fire Marshal's office also. In January, we adopted the 2012 edition of the International Building Code, and you'll recall that there was an issue with sprinklers in multifamily apartments. The council approved the carryover of an amendment to require sprinklers at more than 16 units in 3 levels. And Councilman Anderson proposed to have a committee meeting to study the issue on sprinklers about life safety. We had about 5 meetings, and within about the 3rd meeting, we discovered that the state fire marshal preempted us by doing a rule change to say that sprinklers are required with 6 or more when they adopted the 2009 International Building Code and Fire Code. So the first 2 sections here is dealing with getting our ordinances in line with what the state fire marshal did as far as sprinkling apartments. The next 2 sections are dealing with qualifications for 2 boards for building services. Our electrical board and plumbing board has very specific requirements for the membership. For instance, the electrical board requires a licensed electrical contractor, a local light and power representative, a journeyman, an electrician, a licensed engineer, and a member at large. Well, we found that it's very difficult to fill some of these positions. As far as the local light and power representative, we have not been able to fill that position from XL Energy for the last 2 years. So what we're proposing is to get these boards in line with our other boards, to say that anybody that serves on the boards has to have the training and experience to pass on matters related to those codes that they serve on. And the last section is simply dealing with a cleanup from the codification to put the building services official as the person that administers the licenses for building services instead of the coordinator, economic development coordinator and community development. The last one's just a cleanup.
Ron, thank you. Folks, this is a second reading, so you have the opportunity to engage the council on this item if you'd like. Is anybody interested? Welcome.
Greetings, Mayor Huther and the city council members here. My name is Ron Sod, a property owner here in Sioux Falls. I have a building that's a mixed use, commercial on the bottom, residential on top. I have a 5-plex and a 6-plex. I am here to address the first two issues in regards to the water sprinkling system that is proposed for the 6-plexes. I am confused, and Bob Colby said something about communication, and that's where I'm coming from. The timeline on this, the state fire marshal. Oh, let me also explain. I also am a member of the South Dakota Multiple Housing Association, but I'm not here on their behalf. So this is just me as a private citizen. I have nothing to gain or lose by changing it from 16 to 6. The state fire marshal, and I had a nice long visit with him over an hour on Monday. He is not a bureaucratic type person that says, here it is, take it or leave it. He had some public input on this and came up with his administrative executive order in June of 2011. The committee, which was reported back to our organization, was working on putting together the changes in the existing fire sprinkling codes. They did not know that that existed from June of 2011. The committee met, to my understanding, starting in September of 2012. This does not make sense to me as a citizen. Somebody is not talking to somebody. The conversation I had with State Fire Marshal Mr. Perryman, Merriman. What he said was he went through the state rules of being able to administer this and get feedback. He did it by going through the newspaper, the way the state does it. He sent information to all the code enforcement people throughout the state. He received back only 3 input into this. My opinion is there is not adequate citizen input into the state code. I really appreciate the city task force and committee meetings doing the job that they are doing to find out what are the pros and cons. This is my suggestion. And by the way, he is open for discussion. It probably would take legislative action to change this. Are you ready to make a decision? And by the way, there's like 3 or 4 cities that have made that decision. We do not have to do this today. This doesn't have to be done right away. And my question to Merriman was, what happens if Sioux Falls does not pass this? And he kind of took a breath and said, I don't know. And I said, does that mean we go to court or something? He said, no, but it'd be something that we'd have to look at and try and figure out why or what's going on before we make a directive. This is my proposal. What I'd like to see you do, those 2 sections that are dealing with the fire extinguishers or sprinkler system, give that another couple of weeks. I'm surprised that the state fire marshal hasn't talked to anybody. It took an ordinary citizen that really doesn't have any interest in this to talk to him and find out what's going on. Let's get some further discussion with the state fire marshal, find out if there's room for change. If there is, then let's look at that. Speaking for, or not speaking for, but the information I got from the South Dakota Housing Association was they were looking at 8 or 10. It's a radical change going from 16 to 6. We talk about affordable housing in this town. That also covers rental property. It costs money to put those sprinkler systems in. It costs money to maintain them, because I do have a building, not with a sprinkler system, but all the fire horns and all that stuff. It costs money to maintain them. I think we need to have further discussion on, is it cost feasible and the benefits from that. I'm certainly not advocating jeopardizing anybody's life. So I would encourage you to, I don't know how you do it, but take this out, give it a little breathing room, have further discussion with the state fire marshal, and then proceed with something that makes sense from the standpoint, and I'm not in favor or against this. I'm just saying we need to communicate. State, city, somehow we're not communicating. Thank you.
Very good job. Thank you. Before I go back to Ron or to Dean, is there anybody else in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Dean or Ron, would you mind addressing the comment that Mr. Stubbe made, because I think it was a very good one, in terms of what happened in your mind in terms of the communication flaw between the state and cities across the state?
Well, you have to believe me that when we found out that the state made a rule change, we were on the phone with Mr. Merriman to find out what the process was. Paul Merriman, he's a very good guy. He's with the State Fire Marshal's office. I'm sure that he went through all of the legal processes that he needed to do for a rule change within the state. He published it. He had hearings. I believe it even went through a legislative committee for the approval of the adoption of those codes. He did say that the information was submitted to the South Dakota Municipal League with the assumption that the Municipal League was going to get that amount of information to all the municipalities. Yeah, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I've never had the Fire Marshal's office adopt a code and affect what all the cities do so drastically. I mean, all it took was a little bit of communication to those cities that have ongoing ordinances that would be contrary to what they adopted. Now, we're not talking about just Sioux Falls. We're talking about Aberdeen, Brookings, Watertown, Yankton. None of those cities knew that there was a modification that was done at the State Fire Marshal's office. Believe me, I don't want to be up here in front of the council. It would have been very easy when we adopted the code to say that the State Fire Marshal's office adopted it at 6 units, and we can't go less than the state law, and we would have never went through the entire process. So yes, there was a lack of communication, but hopefully that's not going to happen again with our conversations with Mr. Merriman, and that is that if they do anything that affects how the municipalities actually administer and enforce their codes, they need to let the municipalities know.
Ron, thank you. Thank you. Council, I'm not going to leave it in your hands. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I do agree with Ron in several things as far as communication. You know, I've had a problem with administrative rule because I don't feel that it gives enough public input. In this case and several other cases that I've ran across at a state level. The communication was non-existent. When I found out about the administrative rule change, our legislative clerk and I called the State Fire Marshal also and had conversations with him, multiples. We put this committee together with a wide-ranging variety of interested parties, including multiple housing of Sioux Falls, and basically came to this agreement that we would go down to 6 units and that we would comply with the state administrative rule. I think what we've done is our due diligence. I think that this is a good move for Sioux Falls. The trade-offs help with the cost of putting sprinklers in these smaller apartments. But as we've seen this year, and it hasn't all been apartment fires, You know, we've suffered great losses this year, you know, that I haven't seen in a very long time. I just think that this is a good move for the city, and we've already have that momentum with the Multiple Housing Association. So I hope that you will support this.
Councilor Anderson, Jr., thank you. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, could I ask some questions of Dean?
Please. Dean, would you come forward, please? Dean, would you just introduce yourself to the people of our town? Thank you.
Dean Lanier, Sioux Falls Fire Rescue Fire Marshal.
Okay. Just checking, are you aware of the legislative committee actually approving the sprinklers?
The knowledge of the action that the legislative county took was in 2011. I didn't learn of it until at the same time Ron Bell learned about it. At that time, we were made aware, and that's when we personally contacted the State Fire Marshal's office to talk to him individually. So we weren't aware of that rule being in existence.
Because, you know, a legislative committee is supposed to take a look at every rule and everything, and I just wanted to make sure they actually did take a look at this one because it is so drastic.
I would agree with you, but as Ron Bell pointed out before, they did follow the process. I have the paperwork in my office right now that shows the process that was followed. They did follow legal process and providing input on that information. So there's nothing I can argue with the legality from the State Fire Marshal's office on the administrative rule.
And one other quick question. If we didn't pass this, is it fair to say the fire marshal could just simply use state resources to enforce it or not?
That is a legal question that I think would be better off served by the city attorney's office.
Ron, would you want to take a crack at that first?
Since this is state law at 6 units or more, once we found out about that, we have already dealt with ongoing construction projects. That either they provide a 2-hour fire barrier at 6 units, which is an ability to not sprinkle, or they sprinkle apartments. So as soon as we found out as to what the state law, we cannot go less than what state law is, and so therefore we have already dealt with this for ongoing construction projects and apartment projects that we've permitted.
But you said you gave them another option of the
Yes.
the walls?
Yes. Yes, if you look in the ordinance, it references fire areas of 6 units or more. So you could have a 12-unit apartment building, but if the floor configuration is such that you can get a fire barrier, which is a 2-hour firewall and 90-minute doors, then as long as you do not exceed 6 units within outside walls to that fire barrier, you could continue to keep on building without a sprinkler system. That's a concept that is used throughout the code for all kinds of occupancies.
Okay. So it's fair to say that's one way that contractors can get around this sprinkler is by doing the wall.
That is an allowable exception in the code to not require sprinklers in apartments, if the floor configuration allows it to do that.
Councilor Sayers, did you want David Fifley to reaffirm that?
I'm just interested to see what Dave might say.
David, would you mind just giving some...
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Councilor, in terms of state law, in order for us to have a fire code adopted by the City of Sioux Falls, we cannot go with less standards than what the state requires. So by state statute, we have to comply with what the state fire marshal says are the requirements. And Ron is correct that he needs to enforce that provision in the administrative rules of South Dakota regarding the number of units or the exception. I would also add that certainly you would, by not adopting this, you would put all the multiple dwelling owners at a severe risk, both in terms of not complying with a state safety statute and rule. By law, they're committing negligence per se. A violation of a safety statute is negligence per se, and every landlord that doesn't comply with this, if there is ever an injury or a death in a fire, you can imagine every plaintiff's attorney is going to be out there. I'm not committing hyperbole here, but it is negligence per se if they're not complying with that. So we have really no choice. We're a political subdivision of the state of South Dakota. We have to follow that state law. To have a fire code, we have to comply with what the state fire marshal says we have to have in it.
Council, any other questions or comments? So Councilor Anderson Jr., I know that you had urged the council to move forward. Would you want to make a motion?
Move for approval, please.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item 25, and it was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Yes, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, I guess I would like to make an amendment that was proposed by Ron, is that right? Yes. About deleting the sprinkler system that are mentioned in the ordinance, and then allow us more time to talk and deal with that issue with the fire marshal.
I would second that.
Councilor Staggers made a motion, and Councilor, you're going to have to give me a little bit more detail. I know I got the delay part. You're looking for more time. What was it that you wanted deleted from the ordinance?
Sprinkler, the requirement for sprinklers.
Okay, so you just want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Councilor Karski, you're seconding that?
Yes, and if I could.
Yes. Before you go, if I could just quickly, David, can we put together an amendment that goes against state law? I guess we could. Can we?
Well, with all due respect to the councilor's proposed amendment, I think to even adopt a fire code, we have to comply with what the state fire marshal says in terms of requirements. And I would, we're certainly placing our entire fire code at risk in terms of is it valid if we go against it. And I'm not committing hyperbole here. It's a fact. By state law, we have to comply with what the state fire marshal says we have to have in our fire code.
Councilor Karski.
My question of you, Mr. Fifley, is you're telling me that we, and from what I heard from Ron Bell, that we have to comply. We don't have a choice. But by doing this, we're putting it in our city ordinances, which we're complying anyway, whether it's in here or not, correct? And I'll continue. If the state would change because of what's transpired here recently and the legislators get hold of it and say, no, we want to repeal that ruling, that direction, that directive by the state fire marshal, now we have it in our ordinance and we got to go back to try to fix it from there. So I'm looking at this saying, if we don't have it in our ordinance, we have to comply anyway. And if we do put it in there, then if we want to fix it because what the state did, we're fighting another battle.
David, would you mind trying to answer that?
I'll try. Thank you. Councilor Karski, very good points. When I was working for the legislature, I recall that there were instances where they had what would be called automatic repealers, where if, say, a higher authority repealed a particular law, then the state statute was automatically repealed. For instance, we had some abortion laws where they had an automatic repealer where if ever Roe v. Wade was ever overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, we have an automatic repealer by state statute. I believe it's still in there. On this level, we could certainly put in some type of automatic repealer and say if it's ever changed, then it's automatically repealed via our ordinance as well. But again, with only 2 readings and the amount of time that this group needs to amend an ordinance, I don't know if that would really be necessary. Certainly on the state level, they have such a longer period of time to pass or change a statute. That made a lot more sense. But on this level, I would think it'd be something you could change within a few weeks if that does change.
I guess what I was thinking is, though, we can always have a higher standard than what the state requires. And if we didn't do that, it would be a higher standard than what the state requires. So at that point, then, we are probably adding some onerous requirements that we really don't need to do.
Councilor Aguilar.
Well, I just would like to remind the council that this did go before a task force, and as Councilor Anderson said, the agreement was made between the task force members, and there were concessions made in order to not make it as difficult on the family owners so I am going to be voting against the amendment and voting for the original motion.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
I also think there may be some confusion here. Passing this ordinance does not mean that every apartment that is 6 and above has to sprinkle. There are other trade-offs. And Dean, if I can have Dean Lanier speak of those trade-offs, because there are things that the builders can do and not sprinkle their buildings, just as we talked about the firewalls. So if you could speak to that, please.
There are options for developers and builders, as Ron pointed out previously, that separations can be provided within a building to minimize the fire area to less than 6 units. That would preclude any sprinkler provisions being enacted, and we certainly didn't retroactively apply this sprinkler provision to any buildings that had previously been constructed. So this is only for new construction. We're not going backwards. We're only dealing with things from this point forward, and new construction is the principal focus of this provision.
Yes, Councilor Karski.
Just one more question, if I could, of the city attorney. Do we have to have this in our ordinance to comply with state law?
Yes.
Council, we do have an amendment to the main motion. It has been seconded as well. If we could have a roll, I'm so sorry. Councilor Rolfing, I'll start with you. Councilor Urbanbach.
I would like clarification on the amendment, please.
Very good.
Wording, please.
You want to give it a shot, Lori?
Well, of course, I'll listen to this again, but what I heard Councilor Staggers say was that he would make an amendment deleting any reference or requirements to the sprinkler system. Is that?
That's correct.
Sum it up?
Yes,
okay.
It is.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, also, I might mention, too, that we've heard that this rule was first promulgated back in 2009, and then we also heard 2011. Well, this has been going on no matter what for a number of years, and so if we delay this by a month or so, I don't think this is going to be any drastic legal problem for us.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please. On the amendment, folks.
All right, on the amendment. Council members Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Erpenbach?
No.
Jameson?
No.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
That has failed 5-2. We now are on the main motion that was made by Councilor Anderson Jr. Is there any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Okay. Council members Staggers?
No.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
No.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That has passed 5-2. Item 26.
This is second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 131, Offenses Against the Public, by adding Section 131.007, Ticket Scalping, which will prohibit ticket scalping for tickets being sold above face value.
Good evening. Tracy Turback with the Finance Office. We had a good discussion a week ago on this ordinance, so I won't go through a lot of the details. Essentially, as the title indicates, this would restrict or limit the reselling of event tickets in Sioux Falls. There are a number of exceptions allowed under the ordinance, including selling tickets for no more than face value. Reselling by event sponsors is also an exception. Selling within the home or dwelling of a buyer or seller. Online ticket resellers are also accepted with certain conditions if they meet certain consumer protection provisions. And then lastly, sales for nonprofit auctions for charitable purposes are also accepted. I do know that Wes Hall from the Sioux Falls Sports Authority is in the audience tonight, as is Terry Torkelson, the general manager of the Event Center, Convention Center, and the Arena. So if you have questions for either of those two gentlemen or me, I will certainly stand by for questions.
Tracy, thank you. Folks, again, this is a second reading, so you do have the opportunity to engage the council. Would anybody interested in doing that? Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for your chance to speak tonight about the proposed ordinance ticket scalping. My name is Brian Opp. I'm Prairie Tickets Incorporated. I started this business in 2007 when I was at USD at the University of South Dakota. My dream ever since I was a kid was to become a young entrepreneur to own my own business. I'd like to point out first off that this ordinance does not affect my business because, as Tracy mentioned, internet ticket brokers are exempt. However, I do have some concerns, and I would like to, as a concerned citizen, I would like to bring them to your attention. This is a ticket resale law book, 50 states, all the cities. As a ticket broker online, I've been reading this book for about 4 or 5 years. In other words, I'm very familiar with each city's ordinances in place and each state's. I believe that there's some hidden agendas to this. I believe that this has been brought up a week ago, and there's some people nationally that want to have this passed very quickly by us. And this is a multi-billion-dollar industry to where our city can gain a lot of revenue, not only through primary sales, but through secondary sales. And I feel like if we do not explore these opportunities, that we are making a major mistake. The part that I really want to touch on and that I'm concerned about, I'm hoping that somebody clears up for me and maybe also the council members, is Section B2. Section B2 reads that it allows the venue and event sponsor to choose an authorized reseller. I'll go back to that in a second. But my main concern with this provision is it allows the event sponsor and or the venue to pick and choose winners and losers in the live entertainment ticketing market, not based on who has the most competitive pricing or services, but rather based on who has a relationship with the event sponsor or the venue. Now, that kind of leads on to my previous point about the agenda. Why would somebody come to the city council and ask the government to put in Section B2? Section B2 allows the venue and event sponsor to choose an authorized reseller. If this is to, in the name of thwarting scalping, et cetera, why is there stuff in here that allows the venue and event sponsor to choose an authorized reseller? Who's writing this to, who has interest in this? And I'm assuming somebody's going to clear that up, and I'm sure there's a logical answer for that. But I also feel that we should learn from the people who have been in the NCAA ticket industry for a while, and that's Omaha. Omaha has hosted the NCAA swimming trials. It has hosted the NCAA basketball tournament, which I went to with my father. And their only ordinance is that you cannot scalp a ticket within a half mile of the arena. So if that's Omaha's only ordinance, a city that has been there for a very long time and everything else, then why do we have all these? Why don't we just have a half mile from the venue? Everybody's happy. Nobody's getting peddled by peddlers on the streets. That's really all I had prepared ahead of time. So I have a few other issues too, but I think I'll just start with this one.
Brian, if you've got other issues, you still have about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to relay them. You may want to speak now or hold your peace.
Sure. Since you gave me the opportunity, I will be glad to do that. The other one is Section B4D. It requires ticket brokers to establish a consumer protection rebate fund. On a separate note, the secondary market industry, like for example, Prairie Tickets Incorporated, my company, it's under Ticket Network, which is a national-based company, and they already have consumer protection rebate funds in place. So this would be asking me to, from my understanding, get an insurance, which my parent company already has, so I'm confused by that. Finally, subsection D would prohibit the resale of tickets to doubleheaders. Oftentimes in the ticket industry, doubleheader tickets allow for reentry to an event that are sold and resold based on demand for various events being held. To give a kind of a local angle aspect on this bill, let's say that SDSU and USD made the championship of the Summit League. Obviously, that'd be a very hot ticket, as it was last year. Now, let's say the third and fourth place game was NDSU and Western Illinois, two teams that have a less local presence. You would be, by passing that, you would be saying that you could sell the USD SDSU game above face value, but you couldn't allow the fans that wanted to go to that NDSU Western Illinois game for under face value because it's prohibiting the sale of one half of the doubleheader. So that also speaks to my hidden agenda of why does somebody want to only do half of this? And that would be the upper end of it. So those were the three things I had written down, but to really sum up my points that I made in front of you all today is that I just feel like this was pushed forward very quickly, and there's it's a very large industry that we're being involved in now with the event center, and I think there should be just a little bit more talks about it, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Brian, good job.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Before I go to those questions and try to get good answers for Brian, is there anybody else who wanted to speak before I do that? Very good. Tracy, I think those were some legitimate questions. And if you don't remember them, I think I will. Okay. So go ahead, Tracy.
I can try to address at least a couple of them initially, and then I may call on either Wes or Terry to expand on that. In terms of the agenda or the reason this is coming before the council now, this I think we've been very straightforward about that. This has to do with trying to obtain and bid on some NCAA events so that we can recruit and try to entice some of these events to town in the future once the event center is open. And the Sioux Falls Sports Authority is taking the lead on that, and they communicated to the city that there is a requirement under NCAA rules in order to be eligible to bid for these sporting events that there has to be in place a regulation limiting the reselling or scalping of tickets. So that's the rationale for this coming forward now. There's no hidden agenda that certainly that I'm aware of. And the other issue that I recall Brian mentioning was the exception for the event sponsor or person authorized by the event sponsor. And I think Terry can probably elaborate on that and explain maybe with a real example of how that might benefit the event center itself and Sioux Falls as the host of one of those events.
Terry, welcome. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Terry Torkelson, General Manager of the Arena Convention Center in Orpheum. Part of this is based on generally facilities have one ticket seller. In our case, we use Ticketmaster. They do have a division called Ticket Exchange. So if someone buys a ticket, can't use it, they can list it back on Ticket Exchange and sell that ticket as a resale item. There are some groups, whether it be a concert or say the NCAA, they may pick or select a different group that can distribute tickets. In the case of a lot of concerts, sometimes they do have some online groups they want to deal with, especially some of the newer, smaller groups. So there are times where it is necessary for a venue to have that ability.
Terry, thank you. There was another question. I'll be back. There was another question, and I'm very intrigued by this answer. And if it is indeed correct, I want to know the answer. I'm sure everybody else does too. Does Omaha have a less restrictive scalping ordinance than the city of Sioux Falls is proposing? And if so, why is ours more restrictive? That was a question that Brian had asked.
I was part of the group that went through it, but I was not the person who put that together. So
Tracy, can you answer that? Or Wes, you're the gentleman here trying to court the NCAA. I am aware of Omaha holding a variety of NCAA events, and I am curious if theirs was less restrictive. Tracy?
And I didn't do any of the research personally on developing this ordinance. I know Karen Leonard from the City Attorney's Office took the lead on that. And I believe what you have before you is kind of a blending of a number of different ordinances, Omaha's being one. I believe some of the provisions were taken from an ordinance or a state law, perhaps, in the state of Illinois. I have read Omaha's ordinance, and I believe that the biggest exception between what Omaha has in their ordinance and what this draft presents is the online ticket selling, so the internet sales. Now, I can't explain why they wouldn't include that in their ordinance. I believe those provisions, if I recall correctly, Karen indicated that those came from the Illinois sample that she drew on.
David, could you respond to that? You've read the, thank you.
Brian is correct, Mayor. The Omaha ordinance involves mostly Part A, but it also includes the double header issue at the bottom of Omaha's section 20-162. We've modeled a lot of that language for our section A. I apologize, let me go back. But it does have the double header provision. But otherwise, that is the extent of the Omaha ordinance. So Brian is correct.
Very good. Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, I'm very interested also in that the reseller. Terry, concert comes into town and they say we want to use such and such a reseller. Do they get a kickback from that reseller?
Probably.
Mm-hmm. And why wouldn't we want to do that then? Or do they won't come if they don't get it?
There are cases where that could be the case, yes, absolutely. It's their event. I mean, they're the ones that are taking the risk, or the promoter is buying the event in case what we do usually, they rent the facility, they're guaranteeing that act so much money so that there's risk being taken by both the act and the promoter.
Okay, so the promoter does it, not
Generally, it's
us.
the act that does that, not the promoter. But the promoter is involved in the risk-taking of this.
And so the promoter isn't
depends upon the deal they have with
SMG or
we have promoted shows before, but not done that.
obviously it's not City of Sioux Falls.
No, because in that case, the City of Sioux Falls would be taking risk. And, you know, when you're talking a show that's $750,000, if there's, for some unknown reason, something happens, you can lose a lot of money. So, no, we do not take risk on shows.
Okay, so the person that's taking the risk is getting the kickback, then that's the way it should be. Okay.
Yes, Councilor Anderson Jr.
I don't know if this will be for Terry or Sports Authority. How long do we have to get this in place before you're going to be going out there and starting to bid on events to bring to Sioux Falls?
Wes Hall, Executive Director of Sioux Falls Sports Authority. All the bids are due on September 16th. So by 10:59 Central Time p.m. on September 16th, I have to submit all these bids to the NCAA. If they're not submitted in time, we're not considered for the next 4 years. This question under their bid portal request is a yes or no question. So either we have an ordinance in place or we don't. The response from the NCAA is basically if we start answering no to questions, then we should not bid on those events. And this is one of those ordinances, one of those requests from the NCAA that is through all of their events.
Thank you.
Councilor Stegers.
Yeah, Wes, I was going to ask you, since we might give in on the scalping ordinance for the NCAA, what else are they going to want from us? They want some money from us too?
No, sir. You know, beyond, there's one event where there is a potential guarantee, which is Division I Women's Basketball Regionals. There's a $10,000 guarantee. Now, the Sports Authority would act as the LOC for all these events. So we would take all the financial risks with regards to that guarantee, but there is no buyout. There are no other guarantees. There's not money that we can put up to the NCAA to recruit them into the City of Sioux Falls.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I know, but I don't like it.
Yes, Councilor Jameson, thank you.
I just sensed an awkward silence, so I thought I would raise my hand.
Thanks for saving us, Councilor Jameson. Thank you. Because if you weren't going to speak, I was going to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
If I understand right, September 3rd is our next meeting. I know we're cutting it close, but I sense a lot of concern about some of the language here. We absolutely do not want to miss the opportunity to bid on these packages. I don't know if delaying it would risk that, but I think it would serve this body well to discuss some of the details a little further. What Brian had brought up is very enlightening, and I thought it was a simple issue, but there appears to be more to it. But
Wes or Tracy or Terry, let's talk about the timing. Councilor Jameson brought it up. We do have another meeting on September 3rd.
Won't work. Not enough time.
Oh, no, okay. So, yeah, we won't have enough time. Councilor Jameson.
Mr. Mayor.
Published and
Yes.
Just a thought, if I could, if we go, and I agree with you, I think we need to put a little more thought in this, but because of timing, I'm wondering if we shouldn't take a look at passing this ordinance and then either putting a committee together or asking our council to look at it very strongly and coming back with a report as to looking at what ordinance Omaha has and paring it down, and then we can adjust the ordinance down somewhat if we can. The third, but at least then we put it in force, so we've got what we need for the Sports Authority to go to the NCAA, and then we can pare it down a little bit at that point if we want to.
And Councilor Rolfing, I don't want to speak on behalf of the council, but actually I was looking at City Attorney Dave Fifley. One of the things you may even want to consider is doing the minimum and then increasing it at your next meeting. You could do that as well versus, that's maybe another alternative.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Karski.
I too am concerned by kind of the broad language in this ordinance. And you had mentioned, Mayor, doing the minimum. I guess the question is, what's the minimum? What does the NCAA need?
Wes, can I have you come forward, please?
The minimum that the NCAA would require that we have in place would essentially be that the city would have an ordinance where the facilities and the facility grounds, whatever that is determined to be, would have this ordinance in place to prohibit unauthorized ticket reselling. In the situation where we are currently bidding on events that would take place at the event center and whatever we may end up calling that campus. We will also have events taking place at the field house and the Sanford Pentagon, once again, whatever that campus would be called. We are also having events taking place at the USF track and field facility, which incorporates their stadium. In addition to that, I would ask that if we went bare minimum, we would then put a place where there would be a buffer area beyond those facilities to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward to the NCAA.
And your buffer area is at a half mile?
I believe, and we could reference the Omaha ordinance for that, but I believe the half mile would be a sufficient buffer.
Thank you, Wes. City Attorney Fifley, in listening to Wes and listening to the question that Councilor Karski had, and then Councilor Karski, I'm going to come back to you. Do you believe that you could develop a minimum based on what was proposed today? And I'm going to go to Councilor Karski first, and then I'm going to come to you, Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Karski.
In the interest of time and economic development, economic activity, with what this really means for our city for the next 4 years, I'm going to suggest that we go forward with the ordinance the way it's written, but bring it back to one of our committees on the council to take a look at it, to say, okay, what do we have to do? What can we tweak on here? Let's get some public input. And I'm going to make the motion that we do this.
Councilor Karski has made a motion to approve it as it reads today. Do I have a second? Councilor Erpenbach.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend what we have proposed, but it needs to have a second on his motion now that I'm thinking about it. I apologize. I am going to second his motion if you would allow that, and then I would like to make an amendment.
There has been a motion to approve item number 26. It was made by Councilor Karski, and it was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Erpenbach.
Just string me up with Robert's rules, would you please? I would like to amend the main motion then to remove everything except, I'm going to do a substitute motion. Thank you. I'm doing a substitute motion, Mr. Mayor, and it will say, and I'm reading from the Omaha ordinance, so if I mess something up, please correct it for me. It shall be unlawful for any person to resell or attempt to resell a ticket to an event to be held at any city venue in Sioux Falls for an amount greater than the face value printed on such ticket on the grounds of such facilities or within a 1/2 mile radius of each such facility, provided that no ticket stub which has provided the bearer entry to the, no, I skipped something, ticket on the grounds of such facilities with a 1/2 mile, provided that no ticket stub which has provided the bearer entry to the first game of a doubleheader and serves to provide re-entry to the second game of a doubleheader event at the facilities may be resold or attempted to be resold for any amount. For purposes of this action, resell or attempt to resell shall mean to advertise or solicit for resale and shall include any sale or attempted sale subsequent to the initial offer to the public, and ticket stub shall mean a portion of a ticket retained by the user which has provided entry to the first game of the doubleheader at the facility and which serves to provide re-entry to the second game. If the name of any facility listed on this section has changed after the effective date of this section shall continue to apply to such renamed facility. Again, this is the wording from the Omaha ordinance. Just, I need a second, then I'd like to
Second, Aguilar.
We have a second. We're trying to get a substitute motion.
Right.
It has been read into the record.
Yes.
It has been seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Councilor Urbanbach.
If I might just speak to it, I just think it's disingenuous of us to say we're going to pass this big long thing that's really detailed and we're uncomfortable with it, but we'll change it later. That seems fake to me, and so I'd rather just say, you know what, we're going to do what Omaha has now, and move forward from there. If we're comfortable with this for now and it gets the box checked yes on Wes's form, great. Then let's move on from
I'm
there.
going to go to Councilor Aguilar first, and then I'm going to go to Wes. Councilor Aguilar?
My question is, when you talk about a city venue, are you talking about City of Sioux Falls or the city as a whole, so it covers all of those areas?
It would be, and I was trying not to read, because they list all of their, on Omaha's. It would be any sporting event, theater, music hall, or other place of public entertainment, amusement, or instruction, collectively the event.
So that needs to be part of the motion?
Yes, it would be. I would make that something in there. That's what I meant to say. That's what Councilor Rolfing just said. I meant to say that.
Councilor Aguilar, would you second that?
I'd second it.
Very good. And we will read this again. Wes, in listening to Councilor Urbanbach and Councilor Aguilar's substitute motion, which was read directly from the Omaha ordinance, do you believe you could check off your NCAA application form?
I may need some explanation, just it may be a matter of semantics, but when we state city facility, we have to have the Sanford Sports Complex under that. We also have to have the USF. And I don't know if that's within our city boundaries. I'm new to the city, so forgive me for that. But we would need to make sure that ordinance covers those two facilities in addition to the city-owned facilities, arena, event center, and so
David?
forth.
Mr. Mayor, with the clarification on the substitute motion that it would be any sporting event, theater, music hall, or other place of public entertainment, amusement, or instruction, collectively the event, it would cover those areas, Wes.
Okay. Well, then if it covers those areas, then yes, I can then check yes in that box there.
Very good. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Wes, I was going to ask you, how many boxes do you have to check off?
Way too many.
So the thing is, it's quite likely that there'll be other communities maybe not having this kind of ordinance either. Because there's just so many, you're going to be able to check off every one of them?
I mean, all the boxes that I will have to check off will be checked correctly, and they will be checked yes. We've gone through this process. Now, I can't speak for other cities and how they're going to submit their bids. Yes, there could be a city or a facility out there that checks no to every box and still submits a bid. The likelihood they'll receive that bid is very unlikely. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is, if we don't have this, where there's going to be a killer, we're not going to have an opportunity.
I've asked the NCAA headquarters directly this question, and they said, yes, you have to check yes on this box.
Okay, and to me that's bothersome, them saying we have to do this.
Councilor Aguilar.
We clarify, do we have an amended substitute motion now?
Well, we have a substitute motion that was made by Councilor Urbanbach, and it was read into the record and kind of reread into the record, and then you seconded both of them.
Second time, okay.
Yes. So we're basically, we've got a substitute motion, one substitute motion, and we'll read it one more time. David, not that you're a South Dakota State grad, you did well. You did very well. But I'm going to, yes, Councilor Urbanbach.
You know, people think I'm joking when I call this process making sausage. Sometimes it's messy, and sometimes when we want to make this work, government is messy, and we have to do this way. And you know, I guess I would thank Wes for your work for this. This is a huge deal. This is one of those things, and I speak especially to Councilor Staggers at this point where you got to pay to play. We have to make this happen. We want to play. Do you want me to read this again?
Yes, Councilor Buck, you've earned that honor.
Where am I putting this? At the Civic? Okay. All right, write it with me, folks. It shall be unlawful for any person to resell or attempt to resell a ticket to an event to be held at any sporting event, theater, music hall, or other place of public entertainment, amusement, or instruction, collectively the event, for an amount greater than the face value printed on such ticket on the grounds of such facilities or within a half-mile radius of each such facility, provided that no ticket stub which has provided the bearer entry to the first game of a doubleheader and serves to provide re-entry to the second game of a doubleheader event at that facility may be resold or attempted to be resold for any amount. For purposes of this section, resell or attempt to resell shall mean to advertise or solicit for resale and shall include any sale or attempted sale subsequent to the initial offer to the public. And ticket stub shall mean a portion of a ticket retained by the user which has provided entry to the first game of a doubleheader at the facility and which serves to provide re-entry for the second game. If the name of any facility listed in the section, which we didn't list names, is changed after the effective date of this section, the section shall continue to apply to such renamed facility.
Very good. Councilor Aguilar.
How does this affect those exemptions we had in the original?
David or Tracy?
Because we exempted nonprofits, and I mean there was a whole list of those that we exempted.
This just talks about, Counselor, anything at the facility or within that half-a-mile radius in terms of reselling it for a higher price. It doesn't affect internet. It doesn't affect those other situations.
So nonprofits.
It's more of a location ban than anything else.
A roll call vote, please. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor.
A roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have an important comment to make. And that
and
is,
Councilor Stagers, I hope it's different than all the other ones you've made. Is it different?
Yes.
Very good. Councilor Stagers?
With this new amendment, substitute motion, we have Mr. Fifley saying this also includes USF track facility. And so even though I want to vote on this, I don't think it's appropriate because of possible conflict of interest with USF. So do you agree?
No.
It's a good catch, Counselor. You're absolutely
Okay.
right.
So I'm going to excuse
very
myself.
astute of you. Yes,
I'm
that's
going to
very
excuse
astute.
myself right
Yes.
now.
A roll call vote, please.
All right, Council members Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. That's the substitute motion. We now have a substitute. We now have a that's it?
We're done.
Very good. Before I move on, Brian, I just wanted to commend you for your work. I told the Cub Scout, or the Boy Scouts, told the Boy Scouts tonight that I thought this would be the most intriguing item that would get the most discussion, as well as I talked about the impact of an individual, of a citizen on their government. And I think Brian Opp, is that how you say your name? I think Brian Opp showed that tonight. Very good, Brian. Item 27.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 2811 and 2901 West Madison Street from the RD Residential District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2013-0710, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Jeffrey Schmidt representing planning staff on these items this evening. This is a 4-acre parcel in the northwest part of town. It's just south of Madison Avenue along the Big Sioux River, and it's being proposed to be rezoned from RD, which is kind of a twin home, townhome type of development, to industrial zoning. Industrial zoning has approximately 45 different uses, including 12 which are permitted special uses. There was some neighborhood opposition in regards to this rezoning, but Planning Commission recommended approval.
Thank you so much, Jeff. This is a first reading. Council, any questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Tell us about the neighborhood opposition, if you would.
Back to the aerial or the person said it. Thank you, sir. This is the best example that we can give you. This is the subject property. It's a vacant landscape garden center. Okay, it was a wholesaler. The property is zoned RD. The neighborhood in question is the West Sioux neighborhood in the northwest part of town. It's a single-family neighborhood that was in existence back in the 30s and the 40s. And so they have encroachment upon them from an industrial development. They're not opposed to industrial development at this site. They are opposed to truck traffic. So their concern is, what can we do about the truck traffic at this property and in these zoning requests that continue to come in around them? We spoke at length at Planning Commission that we can't rezone property and talk about truck traffic and prohibiting people to get to their property that's zoned that way. We understand their issues and concerns about truck traffic around their property, but it's an appropriate zoning for industrial.
How much life is left in that in those quarries out there?
In those quarries?
A lot of years left, aren't there?
40 to 50 years left in those quarries. And the property owner got up and said, and again, this goes back to the flip side, is you have Sweetman's and you have concrete materials there, and he can't, his opinion, the property owners, is he can't sell or build homes there in today's market. And again, that's where Planning Commission was kind of coming from, is can you put single-family homes adjacent to industrial and market them today?
Okay.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Jeff, what is being proposed for this property?
That's an excellent question that we can't get into. It's being zoned for I-1, and you can't say, I mean, he's saying, I'm going to build warehouses, but the neighbors go, oh, great, but if he doesn't build a warehouse, you can't go back to him and say, yeah, but you told us you were going to build a warehouse. He's zoning it to I-1 zoning, and the way we have today's zoning standards is he has 45 different uses that he can put there. You can't hold him to any one in particular.
Could I get the picture back up of that neighborhood?
Yep.
Because we've sort of been putting this neighborhood at siege. Right there at Kiwanis, where it's showing the green space there in Second.
Correct.
Didn't we just approve a big warehouse to be built in there too?
Yes, we did, but we actually converted that warehouse into an indoor softball batting cage. So the neighbors were happy. So they said it was going to be a warehouse, but it's not a warehouse, and the neighbors went, so you can't hold. Yes, we did, sir.
Now, if we change this zoning and the property owner decides whatever they're going to build there, will we get to see that again as they come forward? Do they have to do a conditional use permit or anything like that?
Excellent. Steve will bring up the examples. Go to the previous one, Steve. You have another item on today's agenda that will go through the same type of question, so this is good. Here's all the permissive uses. Here's all the things they can do without a public hearing. Okay, offices, warehouses, light manufacturing. Go to the next one, Steve. No, just the next slide. Here's the permitted uses that without a public hearing, they can do these things. For example, they can do a crematory over there in the second count as long as it's not within 150 feet of residential, so they can't do that. But there's certain things they can do as long as they meet standards. And then do you have conditional uses, Steve? This is the issue that Planning Commission would have a public hearing on any of these things. They can do a salvage operation. They can do a ready mix plant. They can do regulated medical waste with a conditional use. Now, this is the issue that we've corrected in the proposed zoning ordinance that's gone through. These are the types of things that we go, you shouldn't have this right in an industrial zone. However, that ordinance isn't in front of you today. You don't get to decide on that. He has a right to do all these things with the conditional use, and if he decides to come in and do these things, we'll say meet the ordinance and plant the appropriate trees and put in the correct lights. That would be the conditions we'd be able to place upon him.
What about access points?
we can't, planning commission and city council necessarily can't restrict access points, but the city engineer could.
Thank you.
Councilor Karski.
Jeff, how did this go or become zoned RD and we got a landscape garden center there? How's that compatible?
Excellent question. Again, this gentleman, again, the property's been in the family for a really long time, and other people have more history in this than I do in my short time here, 30 years. There was a gentleman that lived out there in a single family, and he had a garden. And then he built 2 gardens, and then he put a greenhouse in, and then he put 2 greenhouses in, and then all of a sudden he had a greenhouse, and then he created a corporation, and then he had a large greenhouse that he then sold to a corporation out of state, and you get RD zoning, but that doesn't necessarily solve the problem. It was zoned RD because you can see everything in that area. It was kind of a transition back in the 60s or 70s. Where we said, well, you know, what's the market? Today in 2013, what's the market?
What should a commercial greenhouse be zoned?
The commercial greenhouse should be zoned either RC, Recreation Conservation, which is what the Cliff Avenue greenhouses are. We have 2 of those in town, or would go more towards a commercial use.
Council, great discussion. This is a first reading. I don't know if anybody would want to set a date of hearing for a future date, Tuesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m.
So moved, Erpenbach.
Second, Jameson.
Councilor Bach has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Jameson. If there is no discussion, Councilor Anderson Jr.
When we do the second reading, will the property owner be here to answer any questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Ralphing?
Yes.
That is fast, 7-0. Boy Scouts, I know that it's getting late. I want to thank you for being here tonight. Great, great job. And hope you learned something, and we wish you the best on your journey. Item 28.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 731 North Harlem Avenue from the RD Residential District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 2013-0702, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Somewhat amazingly, this is a different property owner south of the previous project that we just discussed. Okay, 2 different property owners is the thing that you really need to understand. I don't know if they understood each other, but they came in on the same agenda, so it's kind of nice you get to deal with these together. This is a 2-acre parcel at Harlem and 2nd. It's the same issues, the same concerns. It's a vacant parcel that was zoned RD that the applicant would like to zone to I-1.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Those are residential streets over there, both going into that corner.
Yes,
Are
sir.
they going to be able to support a large truck traffic if that's what happens in there?
They can support truck traffic, yes. Can they support volumes of truck traffic? That's a good question. How I've handled it with the city traffic engineer, Heath, is that when you have properties that need to be serviced by trucks, you can have properties serviced by trucks. It's the same thing that we deal with on a day-to-day basis in any of our neighborhoods. Truck traffic can come to your property and deliver goods and services, and Mayflower trucks can go there and garbage. You can always have trucks go on a residential street to that property. So this would allow to have truck traffic. Now, you know, you kind of have to read into your question how much truck traffic before it would break down. I'm not the city engineer. Good question for second reading. I can have, you know.
Yeah, I would ask that property owner be here because, once again, we're putting this 2-block area under siege now.
Right.
Councilor, would you mind setting a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, September 3rd?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Thank you both. It has been made a motion and seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Ralphing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 29.
First reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-0713 to Chapter 160.446, Planned Development Districts at the southwest corner of West 86th Place and South Louise Avenue, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised Subarea S regulations. Planning Commission recommends approval.
You may know on this zoning exhibit that plan developments are gray in color. So it's difficult sometimes to tell what the zoning is. This plan development district has a mixed use. It's really zoned office in a plan development district. As you can see across the street, it's office, as well as there's some ag parcels that haven't been annexed and zoned in the city of Sioux Falls. The applicant, then continue on, Steve. The applicant is proposing to rezone a 4-acre parcel from office to staying within the plan development district to allow more commercial C4 uses. So it will still stay gray on the map, but the office uses will go away and the applicant will be able to use C4. This gets back to Kenny's question earlier, is even though you see there's a logo on this and he's showing a rendering, that doesn't require us, or it doesn't give us any authority to say that's the only thing that gets to be built here. When he gets C4 zoning on this property, he can build C4 uses on this property. We did go through a little bit of detail with the applicant and restricted him to retail uses so that they would not be able to do on-sale, off-sale, or some of the heavier impacts, but it still just allows retail on this corner.
Mayor, if no one else has a question. Now, Jeff, right now, we're still using our old zoning rules, correct?
That's correct. We are still under the 1983 revised zoning ordinances.
So with those, we just don't have any type of flexibility to amend if we're going to approve something to say this is what we'd like to see, or is it once again conditional use permit?
It's a little bit different in this case because this is a planned development, and we have 285 planned development districts in the old zoning code. So in this planned development district, when the applicant comes back to do a building permit, they go to the Planning Commission with the final development plan. You can put some restrictions on these planned development districts like we did. They wanted just straight C4 and all the different types of uses would have been allowed there. We restricted the applicant and said, let's not have everything allowed in C4, and we only allowed the retail uses.
Thank you.
Councilor Jamison.
I move to set a hearing date for September 3rd.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Jamison's made a motion to set a hearing date, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Ralphing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 30.
First reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-0716 to Chapter 160.446, Planned Development Districts at the northwest corner of West 77th Street and South Cliff Avenue, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised Sub-Area D boundaries and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is to the east of the previous one, a mile or so, 2 miles. This is on Cliff Avenue and 73rd Street. You can see again that it's a planned development district. It's showing gray, so it's a little bit hard to tell really what the zoning is. In this Diamond Valley PD, it's really all office, and the applicant is converting it to C4 commercial to build a gas station and car wash.
Councilor Ralphing.
Is this 73rd or 77th, as it says in the printing?
77th Street.
69th, 73rd.
This is the church.
You've got it printed as 73rd on the map and 77th on the,
It's 73rd. I was incorrect. It's 73rd
so
Street.
we need to correct, do we need to correct that in the reading? Because the first reading says 77th.
Jeff, would you recommend, I mean, I would think we'd have to correct it, wouldn't we?
I would move to amend the,
To 73rd.
the printing to 73rd Street.
Right.
Second, Erpenbach.
Well, actually, we haven't even set a date of hearing yet, so
I
we
guess
could
I-
just,
I'll wait with that.
thank you. Or Lori, do we have to
Well-
change it in the record before we vote on the
I guess
date
it's
of hearing?
Read.
I guess my question on it would be, this was set with that address back at Planning Commission and the notice went out. Do we need to go farther back than just right now to change it?
I couldn't tell you for sure if it was misstated at Planning Commission or not, or if it just got changed at City Council.
Well, we pull it right from the ordinance, is how we get the language onto our agenda, so we would not retype it, we would just simply
Right.
copy it over. So the ordinance obviously is incorrect then.
Planning Commission.
So Lori, should we table this, or
I'm under
David, should we
David's
table
meeting.
this? Should we? Jeff, any recommendations?
Table it.
Table it?
Yep.
We're going to defer it?
Yeah.
Councilor Jameson?
Jeff, just to make sure the developer's not under any timeline that's trying to rush things through.
They're always under a timeline
I
to rush
know.
things.
Okay, I guess that's true.
I mean, they are, and they're going to try to get it, but our option is to proceed forward and have an issue and concern. And I mean, if I have to speak now, I have to be conservative and say, then you have to table it. So.
David?
I would recommend deferring it to September 3 for the first reading again, and then give Jeff time to ensure that it was done properly at the Planning Commission level and the appropriate notices were done.
We would have sent out notices to the adjacent property owners. We would have posted signs. What would have happened, if anything, would have been the advertisement in the paper and this. But, I mean, the property owners all received notification correctly. The signs got posted on the correct property. It's just how it was worded in the language. So, postponement.
David?
Also, Mayor, our ordinances say substantial compliance with all the notice provisions. It does make it still lawful, and what Jeff is telling us in terms of what was done, and the neighbors were given those letters, and if it was posted correctly on the property, but I just think the safe approach would be defer it till
Councilor
September
Karski?
3rd.
I'd make the motion to defer the first reading of this to September 3rd.
Second, Aguilar.
Thank you very much, councilors. Good job. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 32, or no, 31.
31. First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2013-0715 to Chapter 160.446, Plan Development Districts, north of East Arrowhead Parkway and east of South 6 Mile Road, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the new Sub-Area G regulations, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
And as you can see in this exhibit, it's also Plan Development District. It's part of the Willow Run PD. It shows it gray on the map. It's 7 acres. Most of the land out there is yellow, single family, and that's what they're proposing to do too, is keep it as a major amendment to single family houses. They're proposing in the 7 acres to do, and as you'll see in the next exhibit, a different lot alignment because of the steep terrains, but we have approximately 10 different lots for single-family houses just to the north of Willow Run Golf Course.
Councilor Rolfing?
Can you go back to that picture that you had with
The zoning exhibit?
There, right
okay.
there.
The aerial.
Right there.
Yes. Yes, sir.
They're going to take out that part that you squared right in there. They're going to make those 10 individual lots, huh?
Yes, sir. But they're not going to take it out. Steve's doing your exhibit. They're building the houses on top of the flat, and those backyards are the trees, so they're not grading and changing the trees. As Mr. Walsh is the applicant, he's selling these and doing these. He's like, these are empty nesters that want to live on the golf course. They're going to be able to take a golf court. They have a little pedestrian way to take their golf courts down into the Willow Run, and these are houses.
Wet, but, how are they going to get down there? How are they going to drive their cars down there?
Cars? They come in on the east from Torchwood Lane. There'll be a roadway, and then they have a golf cart access on that east side where it's drier. It's on the east side, and they'll have a golf cart path that comes in on the east. I'm not in the market, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's out of my price range.
That'll be interesting. That'll be fun. Okay.
Council, would anybody?
Move to set the date of hearing for the second reading Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013.
Second, Jameson.
Councilors, thank you very much. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach? Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 32.
This is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Willow Run Addition, Tract 4. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The preliminary plans are a resolution that you adopt to give them the go-ahead to start laying out their lot and block layout and starting to put preliminary utility plans together. With the rezoning and their layouts, they'd like to move forward and start doing some engineering on how they're going to develop these lots.
Is there anybody who wanted to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Jameson.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Jameson. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 33.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards, and this will be for the Board of Health. 2 members appointed. First one, Paul Amundson, and then Amy Olson.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilor Jameson, thank you for approving those, and Councilor Aguilar, thank you for seconding that. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, any more business?
Move adjournment.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to adjourn this meeting, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Very good work tonight, Council. Really appreciate it. I know the city does too. Make it a great, great night.